Hello again, my friends. Welcome to another knitting video. In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can master and knit the moss knit stitch pattern. The moss stitch is only going to require you to know how to do the knit and the purl technique. So let's get started. To get started, you're going to need 2 knitting needles. Hopefully they are the same size, or else this project might turn out a little wonky. And you're going to need some yarn of your choice, whichever you want to end up working with. Now you're going to have to cast on. In this video, I'm going to be doing a knit cast on, which requires you to make a slip stitch or slip knot, insert your needle, and then what you're going to do is take your needle that doesn't have any yarn on it and insert it like you're going to knit. So to the back, move your yarn, and then what you'll do is you'll pull it up and slip your needle from beneath, and bam, you got a loop. Now if you're going to want a more in-depth tutorial of how to do the knit cast on, I actually have a video for that I'll link down in the description below. So to get started with the moss stitch, you're going to want to cast on multiples of 2 plus 1. So go ahead and cast on your yarn. Now we are just going to finish off. This is my last one, or second to last one, and then as always, just double check and make sure that you have the exact amount of stitches that you want. Now that that's all counted, let's get started with the moss stitch. Now the first stitch you're going to do is a repeat of a knit 1 and purl 1, and you are going to repeat this all the way until the last stitch on the row, and you will finish off with a knit. So again, the repeat for this is going to be knit 1, purl 1, and again, you're just going to keep repeating this till the very end of the row until you get to your last stitch, and that will just be a knit. Now, if you need help knowing how to knit and purl, it's really straightforward. You insert your right hand needle from below and back, yarn over, and then pull through. To purl, you pull your yarn forward, insert your working needle from the back to the front, yarn over, and pull through. Now, if you need help with knowing how to knit or purl, I actually will put those videos down in the description as well, because they will go into a better detail of how to knit and purl. But once you kind of get the hang of this, it's pretty straightforward. Now, as we work our knits and purls to the end, I wanted to go ahead and take the time to explain to you what the Patchwork Project is. I'm excited to introduce an ongoing project for this channel, the Patchwork Knit Blanket. Each time we learn a new stitch, we will knit a square or a shape that will eventually come together as part of a beautiful patchwork blanket. Think of this as a way to practice your stitches while creating something meaningful. As you knit along, make sure you keep your squares consistent in size, or as best as you can. So what I am doing for this project is every video that I am doing, I'm going to try to cast on at least 30. If I can just do 30, it'll be 30, but for this one, it ended up being 31 because you needed that odd stitch. Then I'm also going to try to be consistent with using my medium weight yarn for the whole entire project and my 3.75 knitting needles. Now, if you want to follow along with this project, you can use any size of knitting needle that you want and any size of yarn that you want. The only thing you're going to need to do is try to always stay consistent with the amount of stitches that you cast on, because that'll end up equaling out to the number of rows your project is probably going to have. So for example, I ended up with 31 cast on. So I'm going to knit 31 rows, and that will be my first square for this patchwork blanket. Now, if you want to end up making your square slightly larger, that is fine, but do keep in mind we want to try to keep everything consistent. Everything should be about 30. We're not trying to make anything that is perfectly square, or else it's too symmetrical, and we are wanting our blankets to be very unique. Now let's jump back into our moss stitch, because we are coming to the last stitch. Now remember, our last stitch is going to be a knit. Row 1 is done. So now we are going to turn our work and we're going to start on row 2. And how the moss stitch ends up getting its design is you knit the purls and you purl the knits. So because you've actually finished with a knit, but when you turn your work around, it's now a purl because that's just how it works. So to start off on row 2, you are going to do exactly the same as row 1. You're going to start off with a knit and then you're going to purl. So you're going to knit 1, purl 1, and you're going to do that all the way to the end of the row. And again, you're going to finish your last stitch as a knit. Now, the reason this ends up working so well is when you end up knitting, if you do a consistent knit on one side, the other side is going to be your purl because that's just how the technique of knitting ends up working. So that's why it's really important that when you finish off with a knit, you turn your work around so it's facing the wrong side towards you. That last knit you did becomes a purl. I had to have my mom explain this to me, and I'm very thankful for her because she makes things so much easier to understand. But I've never thought of it that way, that when you turn your work around, all the knits that you are doing become purls, or vice versa. So kind of just keep that in mind. Food for thought. Now, if this is all you needed to know how to do was knit the moss stitch purl, then you are done. However, if you were wanting to stick along for the whole entire video to finish off your patchwork, I'm going to again let you know what you need to do for that. You want to do as many rows as you have casted on. So for this video, I casted on 31 stitches, so that means I need to do 31 rows. So I'll end up seeing you guys in just a minute when I finish my 31st row. So here we are finishing off the 31st row. Remember, you want to finish on a knit. Now how I'm going to end up binding everything off is I'm going to do the knit bind off method. So what I'm going to end up doing is knitting and pulling over the work. And I'll show you how to do this. It's pretty straightforward, gives it a nice edge, but you can bind off your work any way you would like to. So you're going to turn your work just like you normally would. And we are going to knit our first stitch. Maybe if I can even get my yarn around my finger. So we're going to knit. And then we're going to knit the next stitch. Then we're going to take that one yarn we just knitted and pull it over the yarn we just did. So let's look at that again. It's a knit. Put your needle behind that last stitch and pull it forward. And as you end up doing this, it's going to kind of give you almost like a crocheted styled border. But again, you can bind off any way that you'd like to. Once you've come to the last stitch, go ahead and snip your yarn and do a slip stitch through it and bind it off. And there you have it. You have done your first square for your patchwork blanket. Good job. Now follow along with the other videos as they end up getting posted to this playlist. Once we get to a certain amount of squares, I will let you know when it's time to start assembling, but you can assemble as you go. You don't have to wait until all of the patches are done in order to put them all together. I will see you all in the next knitting video. Bye for now.